Mrs. Yesterday, deleted author. Dunsany House had gone to the dogs. Mrs. Callahan did her best to preserve the upstairs master, but the rest of the estate was sliding into a tacky decline. When the family sold it to be converted to a historic bed and breakfast, only loyalty, and perhaps a numbing sense that she had nowhere else to go, prompted her to stay. That, and the pleas of her husband, who had lived there all his years. Had he survived to see what would become of the place, cracked molding and shoddy pipework, he'd surely have urged the family to donate it to the National Trust instead, and both of the Callahans would have resigned at once. Too late now. Here she was, a custodian of Edwardian trinkets and dilute nostalgia. Of course, the house was full of stories, as such houses often are, and she shared them when the mood struck her. But the haunts that thrilled her as a young girl now seemed quaint at best. The specter of a lesser Tudor noble would be incongruous here. Who could imagine the gray baronet pacing the dingy linoleum, clutching a bleeding pike wound, gently moaning over the rattle of the window-mounted air conditioners? To say nothing of the white bride. A euphemism, of course. Her tattered dress bore little resemblance to a bridal gown, save for its long train. Better, though, to say bride than banshee. As a child, Mrs. Callahan heard the white bride once, long after midnight, not long before the young master died of a leaky heart. For a moment, she thought the sound had been the boy's mother, but that scream was inhuman. And what was more, it had come from outside. She had not dared to look out the window, but she always remembered. Years later, when her husband passed, she heard nothing at all. Now it is December 5th, 1968, long after midnight. Something has wakened Mrs. Callahan. A soft noise, almost like the wind. But there is no wind outside, only snow. No, snow and something else, thin and gauzy against the drifts. It is her, and softly, it is screaming. It has been screaming quietly for years on end, but Mrs. Callahan never heard until now. Trembling, the old caretaker rises from her bed. She looks outside. It draws closer. Soon it is inches from the glass. Eyes wide, mouth gaping. Mrs. Callahan's eyes are wide too. When she finally speaks to the bride, it is in a whisper. "We missed you so much." She slides back the latch and lets the window swing open. The Lighthouse, deleted author. The lighthouse flickered, the life seemingly sputtering out of it. The lighthouse keep scurried inside in an attempt to fix it as the storm continued to roll in. Once the bulb was once again replaced, the keep realized he only had one bulb remaining in storage to last him a week. The keep ventured outside again, trying to gauge the arrival of the storm and how soon he would have to batten down the hatches for some time. His wonder was almost immediately answered by a deep rumbling coming from the deep sea itself. The keep ran back inside fast as he could as the rain and thunder began to pour down on the unassuming island. The lighthouse began to flicker and sputter once again. As the keep locked and sealed the storm doors, he climbed the stairs to the top, only to realize that his last bulb, his only backup, it was gone. The keep turned the lighthouse inside out in search of it, to no avail. The light continued to flicker for several hours as lightning shook the island to its very core. The keep cowered at the top, the light his only respite. There it goes. With one final sputter and an ear-splitting shatter, the keep's last hope was gone. Now shrouded in total darkness, the keep could only hope the rumble on the island's crags were being caused by the storm and not something more sinister. A few more minutes of silence passed. Suddenly, a deep groan echoed from the sea. As it did, the lighthouse crackled to life one final time, giving the keep enough time to see an absolutely enormous tentacle slap the surface of the island, dislodging some rocks from its sides. The keep instinctively backed himself up to the wall, as far away from whatever that was as possible. The light dissipated as quickly as it came. Another tentacle rocked the island to its core. Fear flashed in the keep's eyes. Deep fear, deepest known to all mankind. Fear of the unknown. Suddenly, a third tentacle came crashing in, shaking the entire island, along with the lighthouse, from its earthly foundation and into the deep sea below. The island never saw the light of day again. Now, merely a small whirlpool is created there occasionally, as a grim reminder to those in the know of what was and has since ceased to be in the hell that is these waters. Spurs by Bobby Dangerously. Phew, that sun is hot. The Arizona desert is unbearable this time of year. The desert is very dry and unforgiving. It's becoming unnoticeable now as I start to die. I lost all feeling. See, I was just hung up by a noose a minute ago, here on this lonely tree, in the middle of the desert, on the outskirts of Dusty City. I'm slowly slipping into unconsciousness now. I can no longer move. I just swing a little now. But I peek one more time at the four standing there below me. Three are just looking up at me, and one doesn't seem to be able to handle it. So he's looking away. As I die now, my spirit leaves my body. I notice that I don't go anywhere. It seems I'm stuck here. How great. The four leave and head back to town, I reckon. They left on horseback, and they take my horse as well. I vow revenge on my executioners. They have no idea what will hit them. The moon is high tonight. A full moon. What a sight to see. The small town of Dusty City in the moonlight. Something myself and my girl always enjoyed. I'm really going to miss her. I can move swiftly with ease. I head to town. I float through the main street unnoticed. I get to my destination. I enter the sheriff's office. The four are sitting there, playing cards and laughing. Must be nice to be alive. Be able to enjoy yourself. I see one drinking. It is Michael. I start to make myself noticeable to them for a few minutes, allowing them to hear my spurs. Jack asked the others if they heard that. Richard said yes. He said it sounded like spurs. He looked around and asked if someone was here. Of course, I didn't reply. I clanged my spurs again, walking across the floor. I see Jack again. He's looking very scared now. Michael got up from the table and walked over to the jail cell. He asked the occupant if he was making the noise. The occupant said no. I clanged my spurs again and again. Jack and Richard started to get more frustrated, and Michael got a little angry. Michael yelled, "Who's there?" Of course, I don't make a sound. Jonathan, the fourth man, got up and looks to be shaken. Of course he is. That one couldn't even look at me while I was hanging. I clanged my spurs again. This time I start to walk closer to them. Jack got a little courage and drew out his gun. He said to come out, so he can see whoever is making that noise. He said he will deal with them personally. I swoop in and take over his body. I control his arm and I swiftly turn and point the gun at Michael and shoot him right between the eyes. Michael falls dead to the floor, flat on his back. Richard screams out in horror, as he couldn't believe that Jack would do that. Jonathan ran to the far desk and hid under it. I turned my attention to Richard. I screamed using Jack's voice and said, "Revenge!" Richard looked puzzled and horrified. I shot him right between the eyes. He fell against the wall and slid down to the floor, sitting upright against the wall, his face all covered now in blood. I then called out for Jonathan to come here, using Jack's voice. He crept out of the desk with his hands up. He was bent over, scared. He asked me not to shoot. I paused and looked at him. I raised the arm and put the gun to Jack's head and shot, killing him. My spirit left Jack's body, and I moved in front of Jonathan. I was showing him myself, my spirit form, floating right in front of him. He was completely frightened. I noticed he pissed himself. It's all on the sheriff's office floor. He started to cry, to beg me not to kill him. He got down on his knees in his own urine, pleading me not to kill him. He then asked me what I was going to do to him. I told him I was letting him go. He looked surprised, but then I told him he will need to tell the world that any criminal, bank robber, sharpshooter, killer who comes into this town will die instantly. They will not survive the night. This town is haunted by a killer ghost who was once the sheriff, Elmer Rittenhouse. I screamed really loud, and that frightened the hell out of Jonathan. He got up and ran out of the sheriff's office and leaped onto his horse. Jonathan, riding off on his horse, left screaming what I just told him. The world will know that the sheriff is back in Dusty City. The Witch's Promise by Page Turner 627. I never believed in curses, not until my last day in Papua New Guinea. The market of Port Moresby was bustling, a vibrant tapestry of colors and sounds, and amidst it all was an old woman with a table full of strange amulets. Her eyes locked onto mine as I passed. "Protect yourself," she croaked, her hands trembling as she held out a gnarled dark talisman. I laughed, more out of discomfort than amusement. "No thanks," I said, brushing past her. I was there for photographs, not superstitions. Her voice followed me, raspy and chilling. "You will wish you had it," she warned. That night at the hotel, the weirdness began. My waiter walked straight past me 3 times before I practically shouted for his attention. He blinked rapidly when he finally noticed me, as if seeing me for the first time. Annoyed, I chalked it up to a long day. The next morning was worse. I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror fading, like mist over a river. I blinked hard, shook my head, and looked again. Clear as day, there I was. I must be losing it, I thought. But then, at the airport, a ticket agent looked right through me when I tried to check in. I waved my hands, I called out. Nothing. It was like I was air. I glanced down at my hands. Translucent. My heart pounded, and panic clawed up my throat. The witch's words echoed in my mind, a taunting whisper in the growing chaos around me. Desperate, I caught a cab back to the market. The witch was there, her eyes finding mine instantly, a smug, eerie smile creeping across her face. "Please," I begged, my voice thin, probably as faint as my body. "I'll buy the amulet. Please, just stop this." Her smile never wavered. "Too late for amulets," she hissed. "You ignored the spirit's first offering. Now, you belong to them." I stared at her, horror-struck, as people passed around me, oblivious. I was fading, my very existence slipping away. "What do they want?" I managed to choke out. Her smile widened, chilling me to the bone. "They are lonely, always so lonely. They need company. Every ignored warning sends another to join them." I felt a coldness wrapping around my very soul, pulling me away. I turned, frantic, and caught my reflection in a nearby window. There was nothing. No one there. Just the bustling market and the living going about their lives. As the world dimmed, the last thing I heard was the witch's cackle, a sound that would haunt the nothingness I was becoming. In my final moment of clarity, I understood the cruel irony. I had become invisible in death, as I had been in life, unnoticed, fading away, just as I had made her feel at our first meeting. As I vanish into oblivion, I write this post in hopes that my tale warns others. Beware. Respect the unseen, or join the forgotten. Whiteface by Dreameffects. Mariella believed in ghosts. She had grown up on warnings of La Llorona and El Coco, and her grandmother always swore the spirit of a nurse had saved her life once. As long as she could remember, she'd believed such otherworldly things existed. So she wasn't surprised when a low moaning drifted through her window one night. Not surprised, but terrified all the same. The cries raised in volume and pitch, sobbing, then screaming. Mariella huddled under her blanket, too frightened to move. Only her eyes peeked out, glued to the window. "Don't come here," she pleaded silently. "Please, don't come here." Lightning flashed, illuminating a white face pressed against the glass. Its dark hair hung ragged, its mouth poured blood, and its black eyes locked with hers. Mariella fainted. She woke early the next morning, exhausted but alive. Too many scary movies, she thought, as she buttered a slice of toast. In the warm light of the sunrise, she easily dismissed the previous night as a dream, munching her breakfast contentedly, until sirens tore through the quiet morning, red and blue lights flashing outside. The pounding on the door brought back her terror. She let the police officers in, her last bite of toast going down like gravel. Yes, she believed in ghosts, but the words the officers spoke were somehow less believable. The victim. Tongue cut out. Found outside your home, ma'am. Another soft moan cut through her daze. Except this one, she realized, was coming from herself. The Ravens Along the Road by the Prowler. The ravens sit atop the broken down and disheveled fence posts, unrepaired and forgotten through time. They sit and watch as I walk by. My steps crunch heavy upon the winter snow, and the hollow winds chill me to the bone. I walk and I walk along the wintry country road, surrounded by a canvas of white, a desolate land with snow as far as the eyes can see. But I am not alone, for the ravens accompany me. I walk with the broken fence to my left and a barren forest to my right. The once lush landscape of trees has faded to dead branches blowing in the wind, gripped by winter's cold, tightening hand. I'm set upon this winding road, not knowing where it leads or how I got here. I have no memory prior to my journey down this road on this cold and blistering day. I continue to walk, searching for any other signs of life, a person or building to help show me the way, and maybe show me some comfort on this cold winter's day. The ravens start to call louder, almost as if they're mocking me the further I travel, until I come across an opening in the woods to the right of me. Now there is nothing but silence, no sounds from the ravens, and no howling from the winter winds. I look over my shoulder as I enter the opening to see if the ravens are still perched atop the fence posts. They are, but they are now still, staring at me as I enter the opening in the woods. I make my way through the dead branches. They scratch and get caught in my coat as I pass. The silence is deafening as I walk down the path. It seems to get darker the further I go. Not far in the distance, however, I see a bright orange glow. As I approach closer, I see it is a car on fire. And to my horror, I see a body slumped forward, being consumed by the flames. I rush toward the open driver's window to pull the body out to safety. But as I place my hand on the man's shoulder, his head flops back. My eyes widen in shock and dismay, for the face that stares back at me is my own, and I am dead. Just then a raven lands heavily on the hood of the car, jarring me from my confused trance. Then everything goes black. I awake behind the steering wheel, driving down the winding, snowy countryside road. I stare out into the distance, wondering if it all was a dream. I let out a sigh of relief when a raven crashes atop the hood of my car, startling me and causing me to crash into a tree. The car becomes engulfed in flames. I try to free myself, but my legs have become pinned and I cannot move. I realize I was not dreaming. I was remembering. As I stare from the window of my fiery tomb, I can see the ravens gather atop the fence posts. They stare and wait, cawing into the winter air, waiting for my death, waiting to usher me into the afterlife. A girl tried to seduce me at a college bar so she could rob me. Deleted author. So I'm currently a sophomore in college, and the bar scene here is pretty big. Going out for the night to get special deals on alcohol so you can get plastered with your friends is kind of the go-to here. Despite this, I'm not a huge drinker and don't enjoy it a lot because it tastes so bad and hurts my stomach. I do enjoy the company, though, and often go just to be out with my friends or meet new people. A lot of times, I'm called the dad of the group because I end up taking care of them all the time. That's the prelude to what happened when I decided to go with them one Friday night. So we got all dressed up, pre-gaming a bit at my friend Q's apartment before we Ubered downtown to one of our pretty well-known college bars. After we got in, my friends immediately split off into tiny groups, combing over the club for girls they wanted to try their shot at spending the night with. This is going to make me sound weird, but one-night stands aren't really my thing, and I don't want to end up cock-blocking my friends. So instead of looking for girls, I usually find someone at the bar and make friends with them. I was chatting with some dude that was wearing a cowboy hat when eventually a girl approached me. She was pretty cute, probably 5'6", with dirty blonde hair and eyes that I think were light brown. But they were so light they almost looked gold, which threw me off a bit. She asked if she could buy me some drinks in exchange for being her friend for the night. And of course I accepted, because hey, that's what I came here for anyway, right? Anyways, she kept her word and we started talking to each other, and she introduced herself as Alexa, but to call her Alex. I asked her some basic stuff about if she came with friends, if she went to college here, etc., to which all the answers were no. That struck me as pretty odd, as it's honestly pretty unsafe to be in the downtown area alone, as a girl, at like 1 a.m. in the morning. She said she wanted to hear about me, though, and actually seemed pretty excited to listen. It felt like a really nice change of pace, because I'm usually the one learning about other people, not the other way around. It also could have been the alcohol starting to take effect, since I'm actually a pretty big lightweight, as like I said, I don't actually binge drink often. The whole time I was talking, she stared into my eyes and had this warm smile that made me feel so acknowledged, if that even makes sense. I felt like she was enjoying her time as much as I was, and that just made me even happier because I thought it meant I made a new friend. That was when her demeanor began to change, though. She started to get kind of flirty and eventually asked if I wanted to go home with her. Like I said, I'm not really a one-night stand guy, and I explained I like to get to know people a little better before sleeping together. I'm pretty sure I saw what I think was anger flash across her face, but it was quickly replaced with another smile, and she suggested just going home and watching a movie instead. I agreed and pulled out my phone to begin ordering an Uber, but she basically grabbed my wrist and started guiding me outside. I was confused, trying to ask if she was planning to drive after drinking, but she wouldn't really answer me. We eventually got outside the club, and she pointed to a black Honda Civic parked right out at the front of the club. That was when all the warning bells rang like a tornado had passed through them. I was pretty drunk at this point in the night, maybe 6 or 7 drinks deep, but I was still aware enough to see the red flags. She said she had came alone, but the lane the car was parked in was only for pickups, and I never saw her order an Uber. Somebody would have had to be driving the car. This was enough to make me uncomfortable, and I asked again if she was planning to drive the car. She said yes, as she continued walking me closer to it. I knew that was a bald-faced lie, and as we got closer, my heart sank as I noticed the outline of 3 other guys in the car. At that point, my adrenaline kicked in, and I yanked my hand away from her and said, "There's no way in hell I'm getting in that car with you." She tried begging me one more time, saying she really wanted to have sex and would let me do whatever I wanted. But I already had turned around to walk back to the club. She started cussing me out, practically screaming at the top of her lungs as I walked back up to the bouncers to go in. I texted my friends what happened, and we all met back up and went home. It was obvious she was going to college bars, trying to get guys drunk before offering to sleep with them, so she could get them in that car with 3 other men to rob them, or do God knows what else. I called my city's anonymous tip line and left a detailed description of the girl, the car, and the place where it happened. That night was a real wake-up call for me, and I'm so thankful that despite me being drunk that night, I was able to piece together what was happening before it was too late. Please remember to always be safe when going out with friends, especially when it's late at night, or if alcohol is involved. But to Alexa, who I saw that night at the bar, let's not meet again. I would like to give a heartfelt thank you to the special friends of the channel for your overwhelming generosity. If you would like to support the channel, the link is below in the description. Also, please send me your stories and poems to duchessofdarkness.27@gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram at duchess.ofdarkness and Twitter at duchessofdarkn2. I want to thank all my listeners for your kindness, your encouragement, and your support. It means the world to me. Thank you for joining me. Until next time.